my stuff on the way home because I'll just tether my phone or my computer to my phone so I can do it. So then I'm on our way home. I just couldn't get good enough service for it to work right. And then we got home, and the neighbor was like, "Hey, mind if I help you do your dishwasher today?" I was like, "Oh man, okay, yep, sounds good." So. Okay. I'll be ready in 1 second. All right. Oh, better turn my recorder on. All right. When do you guys want to talk real quick?
Ba ba boom. Check. 1, 2.
Ba ba boom.
All right. I think we're good.
I haven't hooked up my new boom yet.
Oh yeah.
Once you go boom.
Yeah.
Do you have your boom?
Yeah.
Man, you sound crazy bassy, Kurt.
Yeah.
You're rattling my trunk.
I know. In your 1986 Caprice.
Back off your mic like 2 inches.
There. That's 2 inches.
Yep, that's way better.
I don't know what 2 inches looks like.
Check out my chest has the blue light and the
Yeah,
microphone on it.
I put a piece of tape over my light because it was so obnoxious. It's like your big blue nipple.
It's a black light. You see all these like splatters.
You could rotate the mic so it's on your face too.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
Oh, it doesn't work.
Oh yeah.
There it is. You're basking in it. Bask in the glow of the microphone.
It looks like it just huffed a bunch of.
You sound funny too.
About to go to a rave.
Put the mic in your throat. We should do the whole podcast like that.
All right. You guys are ready?
Yeah.
No, I need can I get like 10, 15 more minutes?
You gotta go install an appliance.
I'm not ready yet. Hold on 1 second. Okay, I'm ready now.
Okay. You guys have muscle flexes?
I do have one.
Okay.
Oh wait, I gotta make sure I have it on here.
I don't as of right now.
My mom sent me a couple today.
Instagram, it's money.
All right, here we go.
This is Michael from Colorado, a proud Patreon supporter of IVMB Podcast, and you're listening to the best marginal analysis out there, IVMB.
Hi, and welcome to this episode of the IVMB Podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts. My name is Corey, and I am joined by the other two hosts of this podcast through a Google Plus Hangout.
Hi, it's Andy.
And Kurt.
because we use Google Plus, we're able to stream these broadcasts live. So if you go to ivmv.com/live, right at 8:30 Central, right on the nose, we will be there.
Never late, ever.
Never like 50 minutes late. It never happens. So typically I'll also send out push notifications when we're about to go live. Not doing it tonight because we are 50 minutes late. I figure there's probably people sleeping by now. So if you've downloaded our app, you can allow push notifications from the app, and you'll get a notice. And our iOS and Android app are free, and you can find them in the iOS App Store or the Google Play Store. You can also go to ivmv.com/iOS or ivmv.com/Android from your mobile device, and then it will open it up in the store. One of my favorite features of our app is that you can call the show directly in the app. We have some voicemail throughout this episode, and also stuff to play at the end. So if you hear anything in our episodes that you would like to comment on, or if you're watching a Cubs game and you have a thought on something that you would like to share, whatever the reason is, leave us a voicemail. If you don't have the app, you can save this phone number into your phone, and it goes to the same line. It's 309-517-0624. I'm sure that spells out something creative, but I don't know what that is, so we'll have to figure that out. So you can call us anytime. It's just a voicemail service. No actual phone will ring. You don't have to worry about me answering and having an awkward conversation with me. That won't happen.
Hello.
So last night was our Iowa Cubs meetup. El Bait Shop was delicious as usual. I tried I think 3 or 4 new beers over there, and every one was good.
Yeah, and the High Life Lounge food.
Yeah, that was good too. I had some fried pickles that were heavenly.
Yeah, they just fry everything and it's delicious.
Yeah. And then I had a grilled cheese with eggs on it. It was good too.
Scrambled eggs.
Yeah, no, it was over hard. But yeah, it was great to hang out with. Right. It was great to hang out with some of the guys that were at the meetup last year. Chris, Sean, Perplexed Damage, and Bob from Moline and Michael from Galesburg were also there. And then it was cool to meet some new folks. Sean Waters, he's been listening to us for a long time, been interacting with us over the years. So it was cool to meet him and his wife, Kimberly. They drove all the way from Rochelle to Des Moines, so that was pretty cool. And then speaking of traveling long distances, how about Guy from Tulsa, Oklahoma?
Yeah, our boy Guy.
Yeah.
Representing.
Yeah, I liked it. Man, I got a kick out of Guy. I think he's a nice guy. I did not mean to do that.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah, he's funny.
He goes, he kind of called me out, though. Like, something I said on the podcast last August, where I kind of said something negative about the state of Oklahoma. And mainly it's because we had kind of a crummy experience traveling through there. So he didn't appreciate that very much. So
Came from Tulsa to set the record straight about.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I felt really bad, like after he reminded me that I said that stuff, because and Guy wasn't familiar with this, but there's a Facebook group, Cubs fans in Oklahoma, and I belong to that group. I think it's really a good Facebook group. Just I don't live in Oklahoma, but if you enjoy Cubs talk, it's a really active Facebook group. There's a lot going on. And especially if you're in Oklahoma and not aware of that Facebook group, definitely join it. Just a good group of Cubs fans, like 500 or 600 members strong. They do lots of meetups and game watches and everything like that. So Guy wasn't even aware of them, so I was able to share that with him. So hopefully you can...
So you mended that fence.
Right.
Healed those wounds of trash-talking Oklahoma.
Yeah. Well, and then he understood when I said that we had stayed in Muskogee. Then he kind of understood, I think. So.
Wait, he mended that fence or that bridge?
Yeah, bridge. Okay. I'm mixing things. It's late, We're late, and these things aren't firing on all cylinders over here.
That is true. But it was really cool to hang out with everyone. But the game. That game,
though.
Yeah, game. I liked the Iowa Cubs press release for that game. the email. I don't know if you guys got this. I'm not sure if you're on their mailing list, but the email subject line was Lions Redbirds walk past Iowa 7-2. I was like, yep, I pretty much summed it up.
Yeah, it was pretty much just a walk past
Yeah.
the Iowa Cubs.
Basically, the gist of, I guess, to sum up the game, Carlos Pimentel could not find the strike zone.
I told
Wasn't even in the same park.
I told one of my Cardinals fan friends today about the game, and he just acted like, yeah, it figures. It kind of angered me, like he just assumed that Memphis would smoke the Cubs or something.
Like it just happens. It's just understood that that's the way it's gonna go.
Yeah, but you guys talk about your farm system. Look at that, 7-2.
Yep. Just like I expected it to go.
That's why we don't even follow the farm system. Cardinals fans, they're just so good.
Yeah, that was it was
a really slow game too. I mean, obviously when the guys throwing a lot of balls and walking a lot of guys, it's just like a drug on. But yeah, it wasn't a super pleasant game to watch.
But then a little something, they threw us a little bone at the end with
right after I left.
Bomb.
Yeah, so did you leave before that?
I did. I didn't see it.
Oh my gosh. I couldn't remember when you left.
Must have been right when you got back in, because you walked out with us to give me some stuff, and then it must have been when you came back in.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing. I mean, we could have been killed in the parking lot by that hit. Had it not been for that light pole. But first, before we get into the Baez bomb, Chris said that he's interested in our evaluation on being able to see Javi play third base yesterday. So let's talk about Javier's defense first. Of course, then there's been recent developments in this whole situation. But Kurt, I know I was talking with you, and you kind of had an opinion on what you saw from Javi. He was playing third base.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so it's one game. I've actually seen him play 2 games, but not at third. But I don't know. He looked like a guy who was expecting the call, I guess. It really is hard to make this assumption based on the one game, but I don't know. He wasn't totally like 100% max effort. So part of that I think I can kind of understand. Corey, you kind of pointed out, well, maybe that's the case when you are expecting the call soon and you kind of pull back a little bit. And he didn't look good yesterday. He had a bobbled ball, and he made a good pick, but then had a bad glove to hand transfer and dropped it. And so I don't know, he didn't look great at third, but it was one game, and I do think prior to what happened today, he probably expected to be moving on up sometime soon.
Yeah, I noticed, and I think we've talked about it there. I noticed like some not great body language.
Mm-hmm.
There was one play. Did you guys see it where I can't even remember who was playing shortstop?
Mota or
Jonathan Mota.
Yeah.
And so Mota kind of caught a pop fly that was probably Javi's. And I think Javi had even called for it, and then Mota waved him off. And, I mean, it was in the infield. It was, like, basically right where their positions are. They didn't have to move at all for it. And after Mota caught it, then Baez kind of, like, threw his arms up, like, what was that? And not necessarily in the playful Rizzo Castro way that we've seen. It was, I mean, I couldn't see his face, but, and then, like, Mota tossed the ball to him, I think, or they went around the horn or something.
He just kind of flipped it to him, and
Baez almost like underhanded, and just flipped it to him and kind of turned around. So I don't know. I mean,
I wonder if that part
I
of
can't read too much into that, I guess. But
yeah, shortstop's kind of has everything, and then I wonder if maybe he's not quite adjusting to that mentality where he's supposed to yield to the shortstop or something. I don't know. But yeah, he didn't look like I guess yesterday he didn't look like he was having any fun at all. He was out there doing a job, and he didn't play terribly, but he didn't look like he was enjoying himself that much.
Yeah.
But
to be honest, the whole Iowa Cubs defense seemed off.
Yeah, it was pretty terrible.
They had 2 errors. They have 62 errors on the season.
Hmm.
Which is a
But
lot.
then I pointed out too, like almost every guy out there, not every guy, I'm exaggerating a bit, but most of the players on the field were playing a position that was not their original position.
Right.
You know, you had Villanueva playing first, you had a catcher playing left, you had Arizmendi playing center. You know, like most of those guys out there are learning a new position.
Yeah, that was Taylor Scott, right, in left field.
Taylor
Taylor
Davis?
Davis.
Taylor Davis.
Ooh, I did want to mention this just because it was kind of cool, but super nice guy. We were walking through the parking lot and he saw me and my 3-year-old and went out of his way to come talk to us and say hi, and then he ran inside and got him a ball and autographed it. So, not a huge deal, but I think it's really awesome when players like go out of their way to make a little kid's day. Because it totally made his day. So I thought that was amazing.
That dude was doing work in left field yesterday.
He was. He got a lot of action.
He did. Yeah, and then he was like whatever picked for the player, trivia or whatever it was, and then
Player to contribute or something like
Yeah.
that. Or
played left right by us. So yeah, it was a big day for my little guy.
And
Get the
Andy
ball
got
on
on
his
the
belt.
big screen.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
I don't think he ever noticed.
I don't think he did either. He was tired.
Yeah, he looked tired. So let's talk about that home run. Andy, you witnessed it. You probably saw more of it than I did. I have to admit, I was having a good time. And after that second or third inning, whatever it was, where there was a lot of walks issued, I pretty much checked out of the game. I just wanted to hang out with people. And I have to thank Guy. He had my back a few times. One time he grabbed me when it looked like we might get a foul ball in our area. That one that Sean almost caught. Guy kind of like
a foul ball in your area.
Guy kind of grabbed me and pulled me to the side, so I didn't get hit.
Protected you. That's awesome.
And then I think when Baez hit that home run, I think I was watching his at bat, but then I must have been talking between pitches, and so I kind of had my back to it, and I heard kind of like a collective gasp throughout the stadium. And Guy, from what I remember, he kind of pushed me to turn around. So yeah, I don't know. El Bay Shop was delicious. I drink more at the ballpark than I expected, so all the details are kind of foggy.
Well, okay, so all night we saw warning track power,
Right, yeah.
And then, that made that homer, in the context of all the warning track power we saw, that made that home run ball look otherworldly. I mean, it was just so high in the air. It's pretty hard to hit a homer to left field in Principal Park because of the way it's set up with the boxes, the suites. But, I mean, this was over the suites. He crushed it. And I think it hit off of a light standard. Is that what knocked it down?
Right. So, yeah. So it did hit off the light tower. And there were people in the ballpark. I had read that said that was the furthest home run they've seen in that ballpark. To me, and I was having trouble tracking the ball as it was in the air, but to me, I thought it hit off the lights at the top. But I'm not sure that it did. So we hadn't really talked about it, Andy. I was curious how much of it you were able to see. It definitely hit off the tower and bounced back into the field.
Yeah, I think
So there were no sparks and then total darkness.
No.
That's unfortunate.
didn't hit the Big Mac land sign. From my perspective, it looked like it bounced off of the standard itself, not quite at the level of the lights themselves.
But even if it was halfway up,
it was a monster blast.
It wasn't at the base of the light tower. It was
way up.
And that light tower is not close. It's out there. I would have been impressed if he would have hit it off the base of that tower.
Oh yeah, he destroyed it.
Yeah,
that's the kind of ball that would have broken a car window in the parking lot at spring training.
Right. Or bounced off, one of the buildings across Waveland.
Right.
It was crazy.
And it's the last one we'll see for a while.
Yeah. So good segue, Kurt. You want to have it out?
Well, yeah. In today's game, he fractured his hand. And is it that he's out 4 to 8 weeks, which seems like a really big span, but I think 4 is probably optimistic with a fracture. So somewhere in that 4 to 8 weeks. So let's say 6 weeks. It's going to be a while.
So he was sliding head first, and all the descriptions, kind of acted like it was pretty obvious from the get-go that something was pretty seriously wrong.
Yeah. So, and unfortunately, then when he gets back, he's going to have to rehab, and it looked like he was pretty darn close to ready to be up. And
right, I was on the way home. I'm kind of mentally preparing for this episode.
Yep.
And I'm ready to talk about how we saw that he's ready. His body language said he's ready to get out of Iowa, and
I think
everybody's ready for him to get out of Iowa, and things change quickly.
Yeah. Yep. So hopefully he gets speedy recovery, and
that sucks.
Picks
I mean,
up
what
where he
bad
left off.
timing.
Yeah.
What terrible timing.
Yeah.
So any other comments about the game, the Iowa-Memphis game that we saw?
No.
Not much good stuff to report. We saw
No.
Schlitter throw a scoreless inning, I believe.
Yeah, and Medina got in to the game. I was really bummed we didn't get to see Carl Edwards Jr., but he hadn't pitched since Wednesday, so I thought, we'd have a chance, but with this game being a blowout like that, he didn't get in. So I didn't even get to see him warm up or anything, so
Just wore his hoodie.
he did. Well, while we're on the topic of the minor leagues, before we move on, the South Bend Cubs will be in Burlington and Peoria next week. I'm planning on going to the game Friday night in Burlington, and Andy, you said you might be interested. I'm definitely going to Sunday night's game in Peoria. You said you might be interested in that.
Yeah, I'm pretty much planning on it.
Okay, so if you're going to be at either of these games, give us a tweet or email or something. I know we have a lot of listeners in Central and West Central Illinois, and this is really your only chance to see South Bend this season in the area, because they are in the Eastern Division of the Midwest League. So they don't come to the Quad Cities this year or anything like that. So this is your chance. And then also, I'll be going through Colorado in July, towards the end of July, and I'm working with Michael from Colorado and a few other listeners out there to do a meetup at a Rockies game. The Rockies are playing the Reds the weekend that I'll be there. So if you are in Colorado or that area and you're interested, get a hold of me. You can email me, Corey, Corey, @ibnb.com. So let's talk about the big league team. The Cubs have had some bench depth issues quite a bit this year, but then today they brought back Dino from the disabled list.
Yeah,
And,
sorry, I'm jumping on you there.
No, it's all right. I was kind of just delaying it a little bit so that way I could play a little bit.
He has kind of been the sickest player this season.
Anyone can get in.
Go ahead and talk. I'm just going to play it over.
Okay. This is awesome to have a little background hip hop. But this is his first game back since May 4th. Oh
my gosh.
Mixed in a little,
Yeah, there was something else weird going on there.
But yeah, he's had some.
Okay, hold on. Let's start this whole segment over. I was like, what is going on here?
All right, where are you starting? Are you starting at?
Somebody requested that I play. I think it was Dawn requested that I play the song. So.
Look at Dino.
All right.
All right, Corey.
Okay, let me play it and then I'll. We haven't listened to this song in a long time.
From outside Petco, when anyone can get in.
I mean, I listen to it almost every day, but.
Throwing awesome beers, outfield gap splitting, taking extra bases. Dino ain't quitting. Yeah, his hits deserve a replay. He'll give every fan a souvenir when he plays. Ladies love him.
They call him Dino.
If you think something else, what do you know?
All right, I'll fade it out and you can talk.
Yeah, good. All right, yeah. So Dino, aforementioned Dino, is back. It is his first game back since May 4. He's had some hamstring issues that have been nagging him since spring training, and it's his second stint on the DL. So, it's good timing for him to be back because you've got Soler out, so he can play right field in that spot, and then also you're heading into several games on the road. 7 of 13 of the next 13 games are on the road in interleague play, so they're definitely going to need some offensive depth. So that helps a lot with the DH coming up in those games. And then, based on today's performance, he continued where he left off, which he had been hitting the ball really well in the handful of games he'd appeared in. And today he went 3 for 5 and scored a run, batting 7th in the lineup. So, and he had been hitting really well before this injury too. So it's good to see him kind of just pick it up where he left off. I think he's hitting like 460, something like that.
No small sample size there.
Nope.
That's the real Dino.
Forget Dino. But yeah, so they definitely need him. The timing is almost perfect.
Yeah. Yep, especially with not having, with all these American League games coming up, we kind of thought that this is a really good time to kind of bring Baez in and kind of work him into the situation a little bit, see how things go. So, at least
asking about like Schwarber, like do you bring Schwarber up to fill that spot? Well, no, maybe it takes the pressure off of that.
Right, and there were actually some comments made, like by Joe Madden and others, columnists and stuff about bringing up Schwarber. I don't know. I think we're going to get into Schwarber a little bit later, but yeah, I'm not a big fan of that idea. Not that I don't want to see him, but okay, we have a lot of questions to get to, but before we do those, do you guys have any comments about this series with the Nationals? Hey, we took a series from the Nationals, three games to 1. That was nice.
The Nationals. Yeah. There were a lot of great things. I mean, Thursday's game won by Ross's snap throw to first to win the game.
Man, that was awesome.
That was awesome.
I love his reaction afterwards. I know I've kind of hated on Ross, and I'll just stop doing it. But yeah, That was pretty impressive.
You should stop doing that.
I will. No more Ross hate, because there's some good stuff about Ross coming up later too.
Yeah, and he wants to win, and he relishes winning, and so he's the kind of veteran the Cubs need to have in their, in the clubhouse. Rizzo, man, the dude is still hitting. He's hitting at a torrid pace still. He got his 11th homer of the season in Friday's game. So he's killing. I think he kind of didn't he get thrown out on the base paths like twice today?
Yeah, I think he did.
Caught stealing and then picked off first maybe. And then how about I wanted to mention too, Hamels 8 innings pitched on Saturday's game, and he came out to pitch the 9th, and he gave up a homer, but that was only the second run the Nationals got, and it was Bryce Harper. But Hamels' performance so far this season is ridiculous.
Yes.
He has a sub 1 whip, and opponents are hitting 174 off of him.
That's awesome.
I mean, there have been some pretty good highlights, really, just from this series. The Sunday we saw a 3-hit game for Bryant. And I did want to mention too is that Rondon was kind of a big moment too, where he came out to get the save in Saturday's game, and Madden gave him the hook after giving up a walk to the first batter.
Yeah.
So Strop came in and got the save on that one, and then Mott got the save in today's game. So it's kind of an interesting situation there that Madden has been calling sort of a non-issue, but.
Right, like Madden, didn't he basically say his goal was to win that game?
Yeah.
And that he wasn't really trying to.
And I think maybe Don has a question about the closer.
I think so.
So we can talk about that a little bit more coming up.
On our midweek episode, did we talk at all about Junior Lake's taunting situation?
No, because it was. Well, slightly. It happened, I think, while we were recording, or just before we recorded.
Okay,
so we kind of touched on it, but we didn't talk much about it.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. So a lot of people asked me on Facebook and Twitter, what my take on it was, Junior Lake, and maybe kind of his cockiness and stuff like that. So I'm kind of curious what you guys think about these types of displays, I guess.
Well, I guess now that I do remember talking a bit about the fact that like I used to be really like an old man about this kind of stuff, and it really bothered me, but it doesn't bother me nearly as much as it used to.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know.
Like, you're getting older.
I know. I think it's because they're better. Like that kind of behavior on a bad team is just obnoxious.
Okay, but they were losing.
Yeah, see, I
big.
don't
Yes.
like it.
Okay, so in particular, if we're talking in general about sort of displays
Swagger.
of cockiness, then that's what I'm saying. I'm okay with it. Lake's thing, not so much. Yeah, because he's only been up for a handful of games this year, and then they were losing by a lot, and so yeah, I'm not down with that. What Lake did.
Well, I'm kind of with you, Kurt. I mean, I find myself caring less and less about player cockiness and bat flips and all that kind of stuff. I think one of the reasons I'm caring less and less about those things is that seeing people get so worked up about it actually entertains me. so I kind of get a kick out of seeing those things.
Yeah.
But as far as like this situation with Junior Lake, I mean, I guess I look at it like we don't really know the history or all of the details. So yes, the Cubs were down big. It seems kind of silly for him to hush the Marlins dugout, but who knows? Perhaps in a previous game, or maybe something going back to last year. Maybe there was a particular player jawing at Junior. Maybe there's some sort of a history thing there, and it was kind of more of like a individual thing than a team thing. He was kind of representing himself and not necessarily the team, obviously, as they were down big. But
And that's what I have a problem with. I mean, baseball is a team sport, and you win as a team. Shut up the haters by winning as a team.
okay. I don't mean to interrupt you.
No,
but
go ahead and interrupt. That's great. Love it when people do that.
Okay, so how is it okay then for David Ross to scream and get all worked up? That's okay, but it's not okay.
The game just ended on that play.
Yeah, I mean that's a totally different situation.
Yeah.
I can see what you're saying. I see what you're comparing there is like kind of an individual performance moment in the game.
Right.
But his contributed to the team victory, whereas Lake's home run really contributed nothing in the grand scheme of things in that game.
So it bothers you.
Yeah, a little bit. I think it's a situational thing. I don't mind some swagger, but
it was interesting to see Madden's comments were basically like, it's not cool, we don't do that, it won't happen again. That was almost exactly what he said. And then I guess he actually apologized to one of the coaches, the Marlins coaches on the field, and said, hey, we'll take care of this. I think he was trying to stop anything from escalating before it did. And so I guess he was pretty appalled by it.
Yeah.
And he even said, he's like, I'm not something about like, I'm not an old school guy. Like, I'm all for progressing, but this isn't one of those things that I'm willing to accept. So that was, I don't know. He at least took a stand, and he said he'd talk about it with Junior.
Junior seemed kind of like aloof about it too. Like even afterwards, like when the benches cleared and everything, it seemed like it wasn't like he was in the middle of it and really started. I mean, he did a little bit when he started arguing with the catcher, but then he just kind of went off to the dugout and was taking his batting gloves off and stuff. And it's like, I think he got out. I don't know.
The other thing is like, okay, so he did pose. I'm not going to deny that, but it wasn't that bad, honestly. Like he didn't stand there for 10 seconds. And he did hit it a long ways. And then I think really his reaction was the fact that like he posed a little bit and then ran, and then they were kind of getting on his case. I think him shushing them was just sort of like, hey, chill out. Like,
so you think it was like kind of limited to that play? Like
I totally do.
He heard them jawing at him.
Yes, they were, because I think that's exactly what happened, because he posed a little bit. I don't think it was that bad, but. And then
everybody's you got to pose every once in a while.
And then the bat flip was probably the worst part of it. He really got a little out of control there, but yeah.
I don't know. I love a good bat flip.
Oh, that one was pretty in your face, but
But it wasn't the Dan Vogelbach high school bat.
no. Yeah, I think we all pretty much agree on that one.
I don't know. I'm okay with other teams hating the Cubs. I think we've had a vanilla team that's been pushed around for 4 or 5
What
years.
about hating them as a team and not hating? Okay, like we hate that Junior Lake tool that you guys have on your team. Like, wouldn't it be great though if like the hate is kind of directed toward the whole team? Like we hate these guys because they just drive us into the ground every time we play them.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm okay with having characters a little bit. You know what I mean? It's
You
been
like
so long.
Zambrano's antics. You're a big fan.
It's been so long. And I did enjoy Zambrano's antics. So I just feel like I'm ready to have fun. I'm ready for the only thing that scares me about those types of situations, and if I remember right, Soler was not playing, I don't think. Which the only thing that makes me nervous is like I'm afraid Soler is just gonna like freak out. You know, he's got a little bit of a history, and I don't know. I don't want him to in any of those situations. Like I think if anytime the bench is clear, someone should be responsible for making sure Soler is ushered off the field.
Well, I don't think the other team is going after Soler. Dude is house in a brawl. Sorry. He's just not.
People are looking for Dino to pound on.
Dino and David Ross are just going after
Chris
him.
Coughlin. Where's he at?
Guys.
Yeah, I can just picture like in a couple of years when Soler and Jimenez are both on the team. I don't think other teams are going to mess with us very much. Those are two guys that would scare any other team away. I don't know. Okay, so let's talk. We're kind of staying on the same topic of not. I guess what's the word I'm looking for? Not appreciating or not whatever. I'm gonna play a voicemail.
All right, I'm calling in to give you my best anti-Starlin Castro arguments. A couple qualifiers first. I'm not anti-Starlin Castro just so much as I think he's extremely overrated, and I certainly would be willing to trade him. Now, I actually don't think the Cubs should trade anyone this year. I think that would be foolish, even anyone from down in the minors. But if you were to trade any of the infielders, I think Starlin makes the most sense to trade, given that I think Addison Russell is the better player long term. And Javier Baez, his trade value pretty much has been ruined by his poor performance in the majors last year, and until he comes up and hits in the majors, it's going to be a little while till he regains any significant value in the trade. Now, the reason Castro, I think, is overrated is, while I'll admit he gets a lot of hits, the issue is that his on-base percentage is really quite poor for a player in his caliber. And a lot of times, there are times where a hit is better than a walk, but there's a lot of times where a walk is just as good. And you'd like to see a guy get on base at a much higher level than he does. Defensively, Addison Russell is going to be a better shortstop. So you make Castro effectively a third baseman or second baseman at that point, and his value goes down even further. So the hits are there, but given that he doesn't get on base enough, he doesn't have 18-plus homer power, he's not going to steal 30-plus bases. He's essentially a one-tool player at that point, and I really don't see that being all-star worthy every year. Let's face it, he's only made a couple of those just because they had to put a Cub on the all-star team. So, so I think he's overrated. Not a terrible player, but overrated. I think he is a, let's say, 12 to 18 best shortstop in the league, in that kind of range. Certainly, I wouldn't put him in the top 10. I don't think he reaches that category when you look at his overall body of work. All right, thanks.
All right, so that was Derek, and he wanted to kind of. He said we've kind of been taking the worst arguments in the last couple weeks, I guess. As far as the anti-Castro people are saying this, and so we've kind of been.
I do think though part of our thing was like, don't flip out on Castro for like the couple bad fielding plays. Like when he makes an error, don't let that be your argument for
Right.
him hating on him. Which Derek, I think, made a totally reasonable argument right there. I mean, he certainly wasn't reacting to a bad defensive play that Starlin made, and I don't necessarily disagree with much of what he said, but I think he's probably slightly overrated. But his contract, I think, puts him at a good value for what he is. And I would agree that he's not in the top. He's not an elite shortstop at all.
Right. Right.
But he's pretty good, and he's locked in through 2020 if they exercise the option. And he makes a pretty low salary for a shortstop. So I think part of my liking him is the fact that even though Russell appears on paper to be, and so far this year he looks really good defensively, he looks like the better defensive player. You just can't project the future, and Starlin has 5 years of major league experience, and we know he can hit. So I don't know. Part of it is comfort with the known versus prospects perhaps not panning out, even though I think Russell will.
Yeah, Derek, I think you raise a lot of good points. And I think that's where I think that we're fans of Castro. But like you said, Kurt, I don't necessarily think he's an elite shortstop in the field or at the plate. But he's solid. And like you said, I like, yeah, his on-base percentage isn't great. He doesn't draw a lot of walks, but he's kind of more of a contact hitter. I don't know.
Yeah, and that said, though, he doesn't seem to fit that well with this front office's mentality.
Right.
The on-base percentage is highly valued, and that's not something he excels at. So I wouldn't be super surprised if he was sort of the odd man out, but I still think Castro, for me, just has tremendous value.
Yeah. Any thoughts on this, Andy?
No, I mean, although if you look at his WAR too, it's always been, his best seasons. He's been, 3.0 in 2011, 3.4 in 2012, which isn't, not even really you would consider an all-star quality player necessarily. So his best was 3.4 in 2012.
Yeah, I get it. I understand. I definitely understand what Derek's saying. And if maybe, like you said, Kurt, Castro is known right now, and although Addison Russell seems to be pretty much a guarantee, I guess, there's still the idea of like, okay, well, there's other positions, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. There's still that second base position. There's still places to be able to get everybody to fit in, and I don't necessarily like the idea of I mean, the discussion has been about trading Castro for pitching, and I'm not sure. I'm not fully convinced, even though I said otherwise, like probably on the last episode. The pitching has been pretty good, and I'm not sure if we need to right now give up an established shortstop that can play other positions and or can seemingly play other positions and give them up for pitching pitching just makes me nervous.
Yeah.
So
I don't know, and part of mine is in context of like, a veteran player like Dexter Fowler, for example. I mean, you sign him on a 1-year contract, and I know you're paying a premium on a 1-year contract, but Fowler's making $9.5 million.
Right.
And he's a good player. I really like Fowler. but you're looking at league average players making 9-10 million a year, and here you've got not the best, but a pretty good shortstop at really tremendous value. And I know that the argument comes in, well, you've got all these other great shortstops too, but I don't think this front office is going to hesitate to move him off of short when that move needs to happen. I just don't think it's this year, and it's not yet. So I'm not ready to pull the trigger on a trade yet, but
and honestly though, if the Cubs did trade Starlin Castro, I would not be necessarily bothered by that.
No. If they got good value for him.
Right, and I think Derek raises good points. It's the more of the just kind of knee-jerk reaction Castro hate. That's the stuff that kind of annoys me. And so I guess that's what's kind of fueled this coming up on almost every episode. So, all right. So if you'd like to support IVMV without it costing you a penny, you can do so if you shop on Amazon. Just go to ivmv.com and click on the Amazon link on the side of the page. It does not cost you anything extra, and Amazon gives us a percentage of your purchase. We've kind of slacked on reading your iTunes and Stitcher reviews, but mainly because these episodes have been going longer. We do appreciate them, and we will get caught up on them. The midweek episode might be the right place for them right now. So if you leave us reviews on iTunes or Stitcher, it helps other Cubs fans find our show, and we appreciate that. So let's look at some listener questions. I ask for these on Facebook every Sunday morning and usually on Twitter. I didn't this week, but you can find us at ivmv.com/Facebook. We are at IVMV on Twitter. But you can also email them in anytime, and I'll add them to the list, Corey at IVMV.com, or you can email questions. Or you can also do it from within the app, email them, or leave them as voicemails. So this first one here comes from Tobin in New Zealand, and Tobin says, why would a seemingly nice kid like Kris Bryant team up with a guy like Boras? Is it just money? Surely Kris can get a top deal with someone else.
Yeah, it's money. Yeah, Boras is. He's the best agent out there. Everybody hates him, but he's the best agent.
I saw he was like the first guy to negotiate a $50 million contract, a $100 million contract, and a $200 million contract.
Yeah, he's just like he's the elite agent. And I think also to answer the question, like a seemingly nice guy, I think Chris's dad meddles not meddles, but has a lot to say in that relationship too. And Chris's dad doesn't seem like quite as nice of a guy as his son.
You meddling Smurfs. You sound like Gargamel.
Yes. It is Gargamel. Of course, I don't know his dad, so he could be a really nice guy, but he seems to be a little more forward than Kris.
Well, I think, too, if you're a nice guy, you hire an agent like Boras to do your dirty work. Baseball players, no matter how good you are, you know that your years to earn income, you have a limited number of years to earn income, and your goal is to make as much as you can in those years to set you up for the future. And so I think somebody like Kris Bryant, that seems like a really nice kid, you get Boras just to take care of that dirty work and do your bidding for you. So I think it makes sense. I mean,
for sure.
Ed here has a question. Thoughts on Almora? When will we see him? Should the Cubs look into re-signing Fowler after the season to give Almora more time to develop?
He's still young. Corey, I don't know if you remember how he looked in spring training, but man, I thought he looked really good in spring training. But the season's been a different story for him.
Yeah.
He's hit 179 in the last 10 games. He's hitting only 243 and 309 at bats in Tennessee. Still, he has a 287 average across his 3 minor league seasons, but I kind of just assumed personally that he would be at AAA next year, and then we'd see him maybe toward the end of next year, or and then the next season he'd be with the Cubs perhaps. But
yeah, I think it's important too to remember that Almora will not be the offensive threat that some of the other Cubs prospects are. Right. Bryant, Soler, Baez, Schwarber. He's never going to be what those guys are offensively. So it's we have to make sure not to hold him to those standards, I guess.
Still, but I mean, even by his standards and the expectations that a prospect like him creates, his stats right now, his numbers are a letdown this season.
Right. Yeah, I like the idea of Fowler being back next year, and then maybe we see Almora, like you said, late in the season in 2016. Let's see. I'm kind of jumping around here. Luis says, fifth starter thoughts. What are we going to do? Who would you trust to get the Ed win?
Wow. Beautiful.
I like it.
That was awesome.
I can't even find this question on the list, so I had to go on memory.
Yeah. I think it was updating weird today when I was trying to put stuff in there.
I will say I do, other than his recent performance, I think Wada is a decent option at 5. I mean, if you can get 4 to 5 solid innings out of your number 5 starter and he leaves you in a position to win, I think that's okay. So I don't want to be too hard on Wada, so I'm fine with him being there. So I'm good with that for now. You're going to see some bad outings out of your number 5.
Yeah.
That being said, like if Wada, starts to struggle or continues to struggle, what about giving Don Roach a look or somebody like that?
Yeah, I would really like to see what Don Roach can do. I'm not sure that happens as long as like Travis Wood is still in the picture. I don't know.
Sure, yeah, it's hard to say.
And we've asked this question before, and I don't know that we've ever answered it, and I don't have an answer now. But like, what's Jacob Turner's status? Is he?
Oh, he's throwing again. Close to beginning a rehab start, I believe.
Yeah. So I mean, if a guy like that can come back, I mean, we early on in the year in spring training, we talked about starting rotation depth and how important, and look how important it is now, where you've got guys that are down. But I think if Turner can come back, it certainly gives you an option at that 5 spot.
Yeah.
But I suppose you want to have a lefty in there.
I like Wada for now. That's where I'm at. Oh, did you have something else to add?
Yeah. He. Oh man, yeah. He's continuing his rehab. But. I'm sorry. I lost what I was gonna say. But yeah, he's working his way back now. Jacob Turner.
All right. I'll just cut that out.
Thank you.
All right. Bill says, has the organization reached the stage where some developmental benchmarks in the prospects need to be overlooked for the better of the big league club? And he cites as an example Schwarber having a big league left field bat, but not having hit his developmental benchmarks for a catcher.
I don't think Schwarber not being there is hurting the big league team. That's my short answer to that question.
Well, I think the organization has reached that stage. I think that's why we saw Addison Russell so quickly. But I think they're still going to consider the long-term effects to those moves, and I'm still just not sure how set. I really don't know how set they are on Schwarber catching, and like I said before the season, we're going to learn a lot about their plans for Schwarber this year, because I do think his bat is pretty much big league ready right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're going to see Schwarber moved up to Iowa soon, and from there, I think it'll depend on how the Cubs are doing.
Yeah, I don't see him. I don't see him sticking at catcher, honestly, but I don't think there's a reason to move him off yet. As long as Coughlin produces decently in left, and
I think if they're willing to, I think if he hits the crap out of the ball in Iowa, I'd like to see them call him up, because I think it just makes the lineup so freaking good.
Yeah.
But if for some reason they aren't in a playoff push, then I would prefer he stay down the entire year and keep working on the catching stuff.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Johnny says, with this apparent Javi to third and Bryant to left switch happening, does that mean the Cubs do see Schwarber as a catcher, or is this just a this year thing?
I don't think he's a long-term catcher, to be honest with you. I think he ends up in left. I think it's just too long of a wait, and like Coghlan can serve the role now. And like I said, I don't think there's any reason to push him out. But at some point, it's going to be clear that Schwarber's a much better option than left, or even Bryant, and I don't know.
Corner outfield.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard to say with Soler out there too, but
I think the Cubs are just kind of they're just kind of rolling with the punches, and I think that they just kind of assume that things are going to work themselves out, and I don't think the Cubs are going to start positioning the team for Schwarber right now. They seem pretty comfortable with putting players into positions that they're not completely familiar with. I mean, we saw Bryant play center this year, so I think they're pretty experimental, and they're just going to kind of see how things go and try different things. So,
yeah, if you can put an offense out there that's going to score like 8 runs, it doesn't really matter where they're playing in the field, I guess. Just throw them out there somewhere.
Yeah. Clint says, what is with this rubbing the helmet thing after someone gets a base hit? Do any of you know the meaning behind that?
I don't.
I definitely saw. I mean, it's been talked about on the broadcast before, but from what I could find on the internet, I just googled it that Herrera kind of did it, and then everyone kind of followed suit after that point, and now it's just kind of stuck.
Man, between rubbing the helmet and the bubblegum bucket,
from-
this guy is like a trendsetter. Keep him around.
He seems fun.
Yeah, I don't really know exactly what the meaning is. I just know that they do it, and
I don't think there's any meaning. I think he just did it, and they all started doing it.
Troy says, do you guys agree that David Ross's salt and pepper 5 o'clock shadow is far superior to the caveman beards in the bullpen?
Yeah, I'm kind of with. In the past, Len has gotten a little up in arms about the beards, and I'm kind of getting sick of crazy. I don't know. Wildling beards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care.
I like it just because it makes David Ross look old, and I'm old, so it's like, hey, that could be me,
Like a little salt and pepper.
right? Cody has a question about David Ross. He says, "Hey guys, is it just me, or is David Ross's pitch framing skills not as great as we had been led to believe? Watching Lester start on Wednesday and some of his other previous starts, he seems to be not getting the calls he wants. Which is what Ross was brought in to do. Just curious if anyone else thinks this. Love the show." So I looked into it a little bit, and according to StatCorner.com's rankings of catchers, he is the 6th best catcher in baseball in runs above average as far as his framing and everything. So his pitch framing has been actually really, really good this year. I just think it's important to remember that a good pitch framer is not going to get every call.
It depends on who's behind the plate too,
Right.
or that particular game.
Yeah, because we've seen some very inconsistent strike zones from umpires this year too.
Yeah.
But according to that same website, he also is ranked number 1 in balls outside the strike zone being called a strike.
Yep, 14%.
Yeah,
Balls outside the strike zone called strikes, and the next closest is under 12%. So he's by far the best.
and there's like a stat in there for like calls per. I don't have it pulled up, but it's like calls per game. Do you guys see that column? If you have that
Yeah.
pulled up.
Plus calls.
I don't.
I see it, yes.
Okay, and he's leading in that. Like.
Well, I guess I would point you to, and what I read is the Washington Post actually ran an article. I think it was last week, probably preceding this national series, called "The Hidden Value of Cubs Catcher David Ross." And so when the opposing city's main newspaper runs an article about the value of a guy, he's probably pretty legit. So I think you're probably just sort of seeing a short-term anecdotal kind of blip on the statistical radar, but the reality, he's actually quite good at framing.
Yeah.
So check out that article. It really gives a nice outline of what he's done.
Dawn says, what would you guys like to see happen with our closer situation? Hope Rondon gets his mojo back. Let Strop get his shot. Sign Soriano. Trade for someone else. And she said, I, for one, just want the roller coaster ride to end. And then David says, I would have to agree with that, Pat.
I gotta say, that I think in baseball, there's so much turnover when it comes to closers that I'm afraid that the roller coaster usually never ends. Like from 1997 to 2010, and I know he was there longer than that. Mariano Rivera was with the Yankees. They had him for 14 seasons. I guess during those 14 seasons, the Cubs had 12 different closers during that time period. I mean, it's kind of he would be the exception. The rule is that it just seems like closers don't have that long of a shelf life. So that being said, I mean, I think that we saw Rondon pitch a great clean inning today. I think that he's going to get a chance to get back in there very soon.
I'm kind of okay with the roller coaster, to be honest with you, because I do like Rondon. I think he could do the job, but like, it looks to me like Madden's okay with sort of breaking tradition. He throws a new lineup out there every day and isn't afraid to switch it up. So I don't know. I've kind of always, I know this argument's been discussed before, but why does it have to be one guy? Like, why can't it be? Because pitchers, just like hitters, are going to go through streaks where, they're on fire and then they're not, and so why not go with the hot hand? It totally breaks the current model of how bullpens and closers work, but Travis Wood got a save. I mean, if one guy's on, I think that should be the guy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I totally agree with that. I mean, let Rondon pitch some clean innings in the eighth, maybe, or whatever, and then give him a chance when he seems to be back on track.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Okay, so Andrew says he has two questions. First, I was wondering if you guys have ever looked at the Cubs subreddit for internet muscle flexes. You most commonly use Cubs.com, comments, and social media, and those are hilarious, but I have read a lot of flexes on the Cubs subreddit, so if you need a new place to find some flexes, the comments there rarely disappoint.
I don't even know what subreddit is.
I do read the Cubs subreddit, not consistently. I check it every couple weeks. I'll go and kind of get caught up and I'll read things, but I don't really look at the comments too much. I just kind of like read, what's been posted on there and links and stuff like that. But I will next time I'm over there, I'll start paying attention to some of the muscle flexes. And he says, secondly, with your recent discussion about Coondog and Pat Hughes' commentary quality, I was thinking about how they compared to all of the other Cubs broadcasters, past and present. So I was wondering, if you had to pick 4 Cubs commentators from history, dead or alive, to fill play-by-play and color for both television and radio, who would you guys put at each spot?
Oh, I kind of misread the question. I thought it was just like a general top 4, but to fill play-by-play and color. Is he saying like?
I have a sort of non-answer to that, but at least on the radio side, I'm going to say no color, just a play-by-play. And if that's the case, like, he's before our time, but how do you not pick Brickhouse?
Yeah, I had a hard time like kind of thinking about past broadcasters because I never heard them. And
well, I've watched plenty of like YouTube videos of Brickhouse, and I like the style. But yeah, I've never sat through a game of him calling it.
Milo Hamilton, from a long time ago, he had a pretty cool voice, but by many accounts, he was kind of a turd. Jack Quinlan, I've listened to some recording of him. He's pretty cool. I like him. the 56 to 64 broadcaster. But of course,
So what about the TV side? Who would you? I mean, because that's a little more modern. That's in our era. Who would you pick on the TV?
Well, I really enjoyed like Harry Carey and Steve Stone, like
Mhm.
back in the '80s. I can't handle Steve Stone right now, but I mean, I really kind of long for just those voices
Mhm.
with Cubs baseball. I mean, that just you hear the I don't know.
I even like Chip Carey and Stone, because that's kind of when I started getting into the Cubs more, is when those guys were on. So I know a lot of people didn't like Chip as much, but I did kind of like him.
Huh.
You
Interesting.
don't?
Not really. No.
You didn't like Chip? I liked him.
I'm right there with you on Harry and Stone, Harry Carey and Steve Stone.
Yeah. So that was not really a great answer for you there, Andrew. Sorry.
If we could just get Hawk Harrelson, we wouldn't have to worry.
God.
We could just do all of it.
Hawk and Coom Dog.
Yeah.
Oh, could you imagine Hawk and Zonk?
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
It sounds like an AM radio show, like a morning zoo. That's the Hawk and Zonk show. Doing, like a ton of sound effects and stuff.
Just racist commentary for an hour.
Oh man. Okay. Jason from New Mexico says, "Have you noticed that Coomer has erased 'I really agree' from his broadcasting? Quote unquote. Really agree, or I agree with that. He has really improved over the last month, starting with the San Diego trip."
I'd have to agree with that.
Somebody definitely tipped him off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's noticeably absent lately.
But I don't know that I'd agree that he's improved. But not we feel like we've really covered this one a lot. But I just don't get why he's doing play-by-play. I really like him as a color guy, but just no reason for him to do play-by-play.
Yeah, but his color commentary has been pretty good. I mean, I listened to a lot of the radio broadcasts today, and he just I one moment stood out to me where he was talking about how he could tell that Rizzo was looking fastball at one point. I mean, he just seems to have a lot of insight into the mind of the hitter that I wouldn't necessarily know or notice. So, because I'm stupid. No,
Well, I do really like him, but I just cannot stand it, the play-by-play, especially when Pat's there.
And I kind of identify with Coomer. I mean, I'm not a professional broadcaster, and we put out this podcast. I have verbal tics, and I do and say things that surely annoy listeners. They annoy me, and I'm but I'm like constantly trying to get better, trying to catch those things and try to weed them out and stuff. And I'm better now than I was 6 years ago, but I still have a long way to go, just like Coom Dog. It's just a journey. It's a journey to broadcasting excellence. Mike is at LeoSammy2134. He says, besides the Cubs and Vin Scully, who is your favorite announcer to listen to? And he said that he likes Michael Kay on the Yes Network for the Yankees.
Oh.
Obviously,
I don't agree with that take, but to each their own.
For me, I mean, I think it kind of goes without saying, Joe Buck, Tim McCarver.
Yeah, right.
You like the Brennemans, don't you?
Oh yeah.
I honestly don't listen to a lot of other ones.
Yeah, I don't.
For me to...
That's kind of where I was at too. I mean, I listen to Vin Scully just because I enjoy listening to him, and I know that I'm not going to be able to listen to him probably pretty soon. And other than that, I mean, it kind of depends on the team. It's more of like what team might interest me enough to like turn on a radio broadcast, on the At-Bat app. But I don't listen to or watch that many other teams. And if I do watch someone, I'm not really listening to the broadcast. I'm kind of watching like certain players or something like that. So
I think Bob Uecker's pretty entertaining.
yeah. See, and I don't know if I've really heard that much of him.
You probably see him in movies more than you see. I've actually tuned into him just from time to time just to hear him. He's good, but he's old school.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a non-answer. Yeah, I can't really. You know, I don't know why. This kind of goes back to our conversation a couple of minutes ago about Cubs broadcasters. I kind of like Tom Brenneman's voice. Like he has that kind of thing where like I hear his voice and it's like, oh yeah, that reminds me of Cubs baseball. So, but I don't know if I particularly enjoy listening to him call a game. We have a few more here that I don't think I put in our document there, guys, so you can wing it on these. Tim says, did Jeff Samardzija make a mistake by not signing early? Seems his value is dropping.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I don't remember
next.
what the deal was on the table on the table with the Cubs, but it looks like he blew it.
Yeah. And that's all right. I kind of enjoy seeing him blow it, but I also really like him. But there's something about somebody like that's like kind of like supremely confident and then kind of like fall on their face. That
I know. Ever since he put on that black hat, I'm not a huge fan anymore.
Well,
although if he pitched for the Cubs next year, I guess I would be. But
John says, is it a coincidence that Santo, Moreland, and now Coomer have all played the role of the dumb guy to Pat Hughes' smart guy? Do you think it makes Pat... Okay, do you think that Pat makes him sound like a... I'm sorry. This is the first time I'm reading it, obviously. Do you think that Pat feels it makes him sound like a better, smarter announcer, and he prefers to have a dumb guy as a partner? Nothing personal against these guys. I don't think they're actually dumb guys. It just seems to be the role they're willing to play into.
I believe the marketing term is folksy charm.
But I think John's on to something. I mean, all three of them kind of have like I don't think
it was Pat's choice.
Right. I think it's kind of like this worked for so long with right. Santo, and so let's get kind of that same vibe going. And so you had Keith Moreland, and now
and definitely since Santo left, though, we haven't seen that chemistry because
right.
Pat doesn't do the things he used to do with Ron, cracking jokes and making fun of his hairpiece and that kind of stuff. It doesn't happen, and the camaraderie and stuff, it just isn't quite there like it used to be.
Well, it seems off. It's they're trying. Today, oh man, did you guys listen to the game on the radio at all today?
I did a little bit.
I did some, yeah.
Oh my goodness. They were talking about the guy who sang the national anthem. His name was D.C. Washington, and they're in Washington D.C. And then, oh my gosh, and then Pat started going on this run of maybe next time they should get MC Hammer, and they started it was rough.
It seems like Pat's,
but Ron was giggling.
It seems like Pat's jokes have not been very funny lately.
No.
Yeah. Makes you miss Ron.
One last one here. Chris says, this just in based on the last update when Baez, obviously the injury. I think it makes complete sense to call up Schwarber to get a few hacks in the bigs and the DH slot since he's been mashing all over. Chris says AAA, but it's been AA. And he says, what's it hurt?
Well, I think that you commit to moving him off catcher at that point. And then with Dino back, I just think they don't probably have to do it yet.
Yeah.
Even though I think it will happen eventually.
So we have one other voicemail here to play in this segment, so I'll do that right now.
Hey guys, I'm calling for the IVNV podcast, and I just had a couple of questions, and then one less serious question to follow that. The first one being, do you think that our wins against the Pirates earlier in the season are more monumental now that they have had this 13-game winning streak and snuck above us in the Central Division? The other question is about Castro and Baez and and Ruffle. And I was just wondering, with this influx of talent, what is the logical move to make sure these three players can be on the field at the same time in coming games this season and in the years to come? Now, my next question is about my neighbor. Actually, I live in Iowa City, and I have a neighbor, and every day since I've been living next to him for 2 years, they put up the W flag in their window when they win. And my question is, should I say something? Should I nod at the flag? Should I say hello? Go Cubs? I want to be sure that I don't seem to be overbearing, but I would also like to express my support for the Cubs. So with that, I will leave you guys. I hope the Cubs continue to win. We're on the Nationals right now, 6-3. Go Cubs! Always a big win, especially against a very, very formidable opponent. Good pitching. All right, guys, keep up the good work. I appreciate it. Bye.
It's not me. I'm not the neighbor.
I think on the topic of the neighbor's W flag, I think the course of action is clear. I think he needs to get a bigger, more impressive W flag.
Yes.
Show him that you're more serious.
Yeah. You got to say something.
Yeah, I think
2 years. That's
I would say something. I would definitely say something, especially if it was like a win. If it was on a day where like the win was especially notable or exciting or something like that, just say something like, "Oh man, whatever."
Good W today.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, "Oh, that was a great, oh, loved how they won today," or something like that. I would say something.
Bake brownies and then cut them in the shape of a W, and then knock on the door and run away.
I don't remember the rest of his questions.
Well, we can get to them. But I don't know. Are you guys kind of like a strike up? I'm kind of like, I don't know. I feel like that's kind of, I have some of my dad in me where I have the ability to kind of strike up conversations with people. It's something I wasn't very good at in the past, but I think as I get older, maybe I'm just more clueless. So I feel like, I don't know.
No, I'm an introvert. I basically don't talk to people.
Yeah, I could kind of see
you
you, Kurt, not.
No,
not
I don't. I don't talk to people in public.
They have to come into your house for you.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much the same, sadly.
So if a neighbor had a W flag, you wouldn't say like "Go Cubs" or
If
something?
it were my neighbor, I have like a 3 or 4 house radius around mine where I'm willing to talk to you, but outside of that, I don't. I don't speak to people. Grocery stores are totally off limits. Don't.
That would cover like 7 miles for me.
Oh man, it's like 4 steps for me.
So you wouldn't, Andy? If a
No,
neighbor-
I would. I would be able to, maybe after the David Ross snap throw win, like, heck yeah, good game tonight. Go Cubs. I'd be able to do that. But that's kind of out of my comfort zone a little bit, even.
Yeah. So his other questions were, he brought up those wins against the Pirates earlier in the season, and kind of asked if I guess those wins were more monumental. I kind of felt like at the time the Cubs were taking advantage of the Pirates. That the Pirates were better than how they were playing. They were making a lot of mistakes. The Cubs were being pretty aggressive on them. The Pirates were making some kind of like bad throws and stuff like that. So I felt like the Pirates were definitely going to improve this year. And so it felt like any win that the Cubs could get when the Pirates were not playing well would be a good thing.
Yeah, I never thought of them even earlier this season as a weak opponent. I always thought of them as being a fairly strong team and that they were good wins. But then now that they're playing the way that they're playing, I mean, yeah, it makes those wins, perhaps look a little bit better. But with that being said, I mean, baseball is such a, who's playing hot at a particular time type of game as well.
Yeah. His other question was about the players getting on the field at the same time.
Right. We've kind of talked about that in the past, but I think that they've already made one of the most important moves, which is working Chris Bryant into the corner outfield somewhere.
Right. And Russell to second. Solving the eternal question of what are we going to do with all these shortstops. Okay, so thanks to everybody that sent in those questions. Kurt, do you have a scary stat of the week?
I sure do. So we've talked about him a little bit on this episode, but Kyle Schwarber's really been on fire lately and putting the pressure on the whole talk of bringing him up. So his stats on the year, slash line is 324, 445, 580. He's got 12 home runs and 39 walks in his 52 games, and that's even platooning with Wilson Contreras, who actually has a higher batting average at 332, but his OPP isn't nearly as high because he doesn't take as many walks. But so yeah, the catcher position down in Tennessee has been huge, but particularly Schwarber has just been on fire. In his last 10 games, he has 15 hits, and he's hitting 385. I think only one of those games he didn't get a hit, so would have had quite a hitting streak going if he would have got one there. So his minor league totals in 123 games at 4 different levels are 336, 435, and 612 for the slash line. So Schwarber's just been crushing it offensively. So yeah, I think it's pretty clear his bat is ready for, at the very least, AAA. But I don't think. Yeah, I think he's ready to go all the way.
Yeah. So internet muscle flexes. I have a couple. Kurt, you said you have one, right?
I do have one.
I'll read mine first. Did you have one, Andy?
I don't have one tonight.
Okay, so this one actually my mom sent to me, and she got it from the Bleacher Nation Facebook page, I believe. I did not have time to look around at all, so it was very convenient that my mom found a couple for me and sent them to me. So this one says, so this is all one sentence. It says, ha 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 ha. You can't defend your team because they have sucked for 100 years, so you have to nitpick about my age and my punctuation and my shoe size and my hat size and if I wear boxers or briefs. Wow, you guys are great with all those comebacks. And the next person says, are you pregnant? Because you're missing a lot of periods.
Oh, man.
So I don't.
You have no response.
I think it's a Cardinals fan that started commenting on there. And another one of this person's comments says, who cares about punctuation? It's a sports site. Most of the athletes need help spelling their names, and you're worried about punctuation. I guess that's why. I guess when that's all you have to come back with, then that's what you do. Now, how about you tell me about all the great Cubs teams of the past? Oops, ain't none of them.
What?
Awesome.
That was all.
Period.
Also, no period. I mean, not even at the end. I mean, there's literally no punctuation.
Oh.
So, yeah, and I would assume, our readers are probably familiar with the Bleacher Nation Facebook page, so you may have seen that. But I thought they were pretty funny. So, what do you have, Kurt?
All right, so mine comes from Instagram again on the Cubs page. The Cubs put up a photo of a person wearing a Chris Bryant jersey, and I assume the guy was standing next to his little son, who's probably 2 years old. And then the comments section, it said something about looking for a win or something, and they were clearly standing in the stands looking out at the baseball field. And somebody says, "He has a son?" And then the person behind him says, "That's not him, idiot. Ever see a fan?" And then the next guy says, "Not him. He has different hair." So it keeps going on and on back and forth about people calling him an idiot, but
Oh man,
it's so amazing. Chris Bryant decides to stand in the stands and with his 2-year-old and just look out at the grounds crew watering the grass.
What is, was one of those? Have you ever heard of a fan?
Have you ever seen a fan?
Ever seen a fan?
It's not him, idiot.
Oh man, that's good.
Yeah.
Oh jeez.
Oh man, most of the ones I find on Instagram are too vulgar to read.
Right. Yeah. Or you can't figure out what they're trying to say because it's
Mhm.
spelled so poorly.
But there's a guarantee on every post that someone has to say "Cubs suck."
Right.
And it just sets off a firestorm.
Right. Which I still can't figure out why you're following the Cubs on Instagram if you hate them.
Oh.
Just like baseball pictures. So this episode was made possible by all of our Patreon contributors. A special thanks to our Hall of Fame level contributors: Jeremy, Dave, Dizzle, David, Jeremy, Dallas, Charles, Steven, Stuart, Guy, Peter, Jane, Cass, Shane, Michael, John, Andrew, Craig, Rick, Luke, and Tony. Our associate producer level contributors are Matthew, Anthony, Joshua, Ryan, Brian, Tim, Jason in New Mexico, and the Quad City Zone, Jason Nunn. Patreon helps us keep things going. It helps us pay the bills for the podcast, and it helps us do things like the IVMB app and the Daily Northside Report. If you have not listened to the Daily Northside recap, not report, Daily Northside Recap, after like 2 months, I'm going to figure out what this thing's named. So if you have not listened to the Daily Northside Recap, that is a... What am I saying? It is recap. God, I got to start this whole thing over. What did I call it? What did I... Oh, Christ. I'm so tired.
It is midnight. Oh wait, not quite.
Okay, here we go. This episode was made possible by all of our Patreon contributors. A special thanks to our Hall of Fame level contributors: Jeremy, Dave, Dizzle, David, Jeremy, Dallas, Charles, Steven, Stewart, Guy, Peter, Jane, Cass, Shane, Michael, John, Andrew, Craig, Rick, Luke, and Tony. Our associate producer level contributors are Matthew, Anthony, Joshua, Ryan, Brian, Tim, Jason in New Mexico, and the Quad City Zone, Jason Nunn. Patreon helps us keep this thing going. It helps us pay the podcast bills, and it helps us do things like the IVMB app and the Daily Northside Recap. If you have not listened to the Daily Northside Recap, that's a daily podcast that I do. Kind of recaps the previous day's games in the Cubs organization, from the Cubs down to South Bend, and you can check it out to stay up to date with everything that's happening in the organization. So Andy and I will be back on Wednesday night with the midweek episode, and until then, go Cubs.
Hey, this is Steven on the north side of Chicago. I just listened to the podcast and heard you guys field the question about how to explain to someone why you are a Cubs fan when you're not in the region. I live about half a mile from Wrigley now, but I grew up in Denver, and the way I got sucked into this was that we always had WGN. Pretty much every cable package from the early 80s on that I ever had WGN, and couple that with a lot of day baseball throughout the summer when you're sitting at home. And I just started watching the Cubs in like 84, and that was a good time to get hooked on it. I'm a little older than you guys, so in my early 40s. So, but yeah, that's a big one for people, I think, is WGN really helped sort of spread the gospel of the Cubs. And I think people will sort of try to shame Cubs fans because they're really a big draw even when they're terrible. Like a lot of teams that are, 20 games out of first will just not have the crowds that the Cubs do at Wrigley. And, people see that and view it as people who don't care a lot about the quality of baseball. I completely agree that there are those factions of people who don't follow the Cubs closely and still go for the party atmosphere. But I think that's part of the reason that people will sort of look down on some of the the Cubs fans, because they can have a terrible team and still get a lot more fans in the stands than other teams. So that's all. I love the podcast. Keep up the good work. I'm stuck in traffic on 9094 right now, and the podcast just helped me not be so stressed out about it. Talk to you later. Bye.
What was that?
Skype? Skyping, Corey?
There was another one, but I can't get it to play.
Oh.
So, weird. I don't know why it won't play. It was him talking about how he almost got Ronnie Woo Woo to do a bumper for us.
Same guy?
Yeah, yeah. Oh boy.
Well,
So I heard a couple of possible titles in there. One of them was
how about the Hawk and Zonk Morning Zoo?
Yep, I had the Hawk and Zonk show. We'll do Morning Zoo. That sounds better. There was another one I heard in there, but I think that one's better. Oh, Meddling Smurfs. You guys okay with the Hawk and Zonk Morning Zoo?
Yeah, I like it.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna get this thing going.
All right. See you guys later.
I'll see you guys later. All right, see ya.
Bye.